In a world of Johnnies, Timmies, and Spikes, we must all arrive at the win condition.
Maybe we're going to stay on Dominaria. Maybe we're heading to Ravnica. Nobody really knows.
What was Artie Shovelhead digging for?
The elephant in the... there's actually two elephants in the room. And let me, for a second, just gush about Mr. Raff Capuchin here.
Hey, would you like a flash Zatalpa?
Hello again and welcome back to the Win Condition Podcast, your source for lore, news, and brews in the Magic the Gathering community. My name is Sean. I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Greg. How's it going, Greg?
It's doing well.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, hey, we finally have a standard event under our belts using some of the brand new Dominaria cards.
I know, right?
Yeah, we've got some other news and announcements to go over. But before we dive in, let's remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com, where any order that you make over $10, use that promo code WINCONDITION in all caps to get yourself 10% off your total purchase of $10 or more, which will help contribute to future show giveaways. So, now that we got that out of the way, Greg, we got some new story to talk about. Why don't we...
We do.
Why don't we jump on into Lore Corner?
I think I can do that and tell you, weave a tale of stories and information.
Yes. Well, let's weave our way through this week's story. Greg, why don't you kick us off with our buddy Chandra?
So, last time we left Chandra, Nissa left the Gatewatch. Chandra's like, I'm weak and I need to go train.
Oh, no.
I know, right? So she planeswalks back to Regatha, where she originally learned how to be a pyromancer and harness her flame spirit type thing of how she burns people alive.
At Carol Keep.
Mm-hmm. So she goes there and she gets it in her mind that what she needs to do is get Jaya's goggles or return them to her because she saw a slight wisp of her Aether Trail on Dominaria. From planeswalking there, obviously. So she goes back there. She has a conflicting struggle inside of herself because of the fact that Nissa left without even talking to her at all. And that was pretty much her best friend that she ever had. So she's sneaking around, trying to hide away from any of the acolytes that are there at Carol Keep. And
it's not that she's afraid to talk to him. She just kind of wants to avoid any other delays with her plan.
Exactly, because having to answer to what everything that happened there on Amonkhet is something she didn't want to do. So she reaches up to the higher cat areas where they hide the artifacts, specifically Jaya's goggles. And she gets up to them and grabs them, and then a voice from behind says, "What are you doing with those?" "Oh, Mother Ludi. I'm going to return them to Jaya because I need to learn how to become better with my pyromancer skills." And Mother Ludi's like, "You have it within you already. There's nobody you need to go and see." But she pretty much gets cut off as Chandra planeswalks away back to Dominaria. Goggles in hand.
Yeah. She's like, peace. I got stuff to do. Sorry, Mother Ludi. I'm out. So Chandra returns to Dominaria in Argive, where she learns that a troop of soldiers accompanied by a powerful pyromancer they've left trekking to investigate there's a bunch of kobolds who worship the god dragon Prosh of Commander fame. So she decides, a powerful pyromancer. I'd better go investigate. I'd better go and see if I can find Jaya, because I wanna meet Jaya, but she keeps on having these moments where she doesn't want to be embarrassed. She's like, oh, I want to meet her. I want to present a good image so that she can respect me, and that way she'll hopefully teach me how to become a better pyromancer. So she's pursuing this troop of soldiers, and it takes her a couple of days, and she sees signs of their trek as she moves on, and then after quite a few days of trekking, she notices some signs that there's some kobolds around. So she notices there's also a bit of a barricade that's been put up, and she sees some kobolds who have been putting this barricade up. So upon investigation, they notice her, and there's a little bit of a skirmish. Chandra keeps on telling herself, don't burn down the forest. Don't burn down the forest. You want to appear, good for Jaya. You don't want to be all crazy. So, she has this little kerfuffle with some kobolds, and she handles them pretty soundly. And as she's, battling with these kobolds, here comes this troop. And they sort of meet each other. And after they've dispatched these kobolds, she says, hey, my name's Chandra. I'm looking for Jaya. And Baird, who is the leader of this troop, he says, oh, yeah, well, Jaya's here. She's just not here. She goes, oh, well, where is she? And Baird goes, oh, well, she left for the forest. Why don't you take these provisions here and head out? But yeah, she definitely went to the forest. Go ahead and check it out. And Chandra's like, well, okay, all right. So she grabs some food, grabs some supplies, and heads out for the forest in her search for Jaya.
So, as she leaves the Argarvan troops on her way to Yavimaya, she crosses over the mountains in between. And as she gets to the ocean side, she starts thinking about how she's going to be able to get across to Yavimaya. And then a clanging sound she hears to her bottom right, and, well, it's a city. So, of course, she charters a boat to the island, across to the island there of Yavimaya. Approaching there, she starts kind of in awe at everything she sees there in Yavimaya. I mean, if you don't know what Yavimaya is like, think New York, but instead of skyscrapers, it's trees.
Large
That's
trees.
pretty much how it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of these trees, they're so big, their roots are actually twisting above ground. So you're walking through a root system before you're walking through the trees. It's a sight to behold. I mean, if you ever want to see it, there's a card called Overgrowth that pictures it pretty well. Anyhow, so she's coming through the city. She comes to this crater-like area, and in it, there's a number of constructs. And she's like, oh, great, constructs. They don't look as nice as the ones that we have on Kaladesh, but hey, maybe they're friendly. Maybe they're the friends Jaya was looking for. And as she starts going into the crater, she notices a ruffling in the leaves on the other side of it, as what looks to be animated trees start striding into the crater. Well, right off the bat, the constructs and these animated trees are battling it out, and Chandra's like, I have no idea whose side to take. So, she decides to take nobody's side, because either side could be the friends. Until one of the tree folks attacks her, and she's like, alright, now it's my turn. So she just starts torching them, every single tree folk she could. And these tree folk take a huge beating from her before they go down. As a matter of fact, a lot of spells and fire that she had to spout off at them. Then at the end, after they had routed all the tree folk, essentially, animated trees, I should say, because they weren't tree folk, a much smaller construct, probably about 8 feet tall, approaches her with more human-like features and says, thanks for helping us deal with Multani's animated trees. My name's Karn. What can I do for you? And Chandra asks him, I'm looking for an old friend that I haven't seen in a long while. And at that moment, Jaya speaks up from behind and says, well, I'm an old friend that hasn't been here for a long time. And Chandra turns around and goes, Mother Ludi? In a gasp, and just can't believe that it's Mother Ludi. And then Jaya, aka Mother Ludi, says, I believe those are mine. And that's where we leave you.
And takes her goggles back from Chandra.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you not remember the whole part about Multani?
No, when they said that she left for the forest.
No, that the tree folk were sent by Multani.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, Multani is kind of part of the story, but ultimately it's about Chandra and her finding Karn and finding Jaya, aka Mother Ludi. But just the double bombshell of this construct. And they do Martha Wells does a great job of letting you interact with both Karn and Jaya before you actually know who she is. And I know that, Greg, we had talked previously in a different episode about maybe one day when Chandra meets Jaya, they could be, good friends and learn. But obviously now we know that Chandra has studied under Jaya back in the day, but has referred to her as Mother Ludi in a past sense. So this is just, one after the other. The author just drops bomb after bomb, and reading it was an absolute pleasure. So if you haven't read it, go back and read the story. Our summary doesn't necessarily do it justice, but it will keep you up to date on what's going on.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What was Artie Shovelhead digging for?
Artie Shovelhead was, I don't know. What's your speculation on what he was after?
It's got to be something precious to Multani or Molimo or anything like that, because he's sending these animated trees as a defense mechanism. What it may be, I'm not sure, but maybe it's a part of the heart of Yavimaya.
It could be. Now, is Multani a known enemy or friend or just a neutral figure?
Yeah, Multani has always been a friend to the forces of good.
Okay. All right, so this must have just been defensive.
Multani trained Raphelos and Miri.
Okay. So these tree folk must have just been triggered defenses from them passing through the territory.
If you didn't know, Multani gave up much of his body during the Phyrexian invasion, and he's kind of been in this unconscious state, rebuilding himself since.
Interesting. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
maybe we'll get to see Multani in a future episode. And we are definitely over the hump in terms of episodes for Dominaria. We
are.
We still have to get the crew of the Weatherlight to scoop these people up and move forward, and then obviously towards the end we'll have Jace coming on board. But now that we've seen Jaya finally, there can be sort of a collection of people on board the Weatherlight, hopefully in our next episode. But we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out.
It's exciting, that's for sure.
It is very exciting. I'm on the edge of my seat each week waiting to see what story comes out. So definitely a fun story to be a part of. All right, well, let's go ahead and turn the page from Lore Corner. We have a couple of news and announcements to go over this week, so let's head on into As Foretold.
I get to draw cards, right?
Yeah, for free.
All right, I get to draw cards for free.
Exactly. So
wait, that's Fate Foretold.
Okay, so we have Standard. We even have Brawl. But Greg, there's another format that Wizards is addressing with a product coming out in the near future. What format would that be?
This got announced by Mr. Gavin Verhey a few months back. that is Battle Bond. I can't remember the name of the plane. They did give it to us at one point. But it's not a return to plane. It is a new plane where arena combat is king. Well, one of the interesting things with this is a format that is designed with two-headed giant in mind. And I'll tell you, I'll be excited to play some in Vegas.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah. But with this in mind, we're talking about it. Two-headed giant, of course, they're going to have a rare set of lands. They're always going to create lands and everything. And this time, we got them spoiled today, Friday the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Anyhow, they're interesting. I wouldn't say they're good, but they're allied colored lands that they're non-basics. They don't get any basic land types to them, but they enter the battlefield tapped unless you have two opponents. So it works really well in two-headed giant because you always have two opponents, and it's interesting. I don't think they're great, but having them definitely makes this format playable.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I've just pulled them up here. These 5 lands we have here. We have Bountiful.
Art looks good though, doesn't it?
They look very good. We have Bountiful Promenade, which is the white-green land. We have Luxury Suite, which is the
that's the black-red.
black-red one. I'm like, am I reading this right? We have Morphic Pool, which is the blue-black one. We have Sea of Clouds, which is the white-blue one, of course. And Spire Garden, which is the red-green one. Very, very interesting. I know we actually did mention the plane that it was on in one of our previous episodes. And with a little bit of digging, we might be able to find it. But still, the focus on another format, Two-Headed Giant, I mean, at pre-release, Two-Headed Giant was a huge success, and I must say it's one of my favorite formats to play. Pre-release definitely gives me an opportunity to play that in a somewhat competitive level, but the fact that they're releasing this product just specifically catering to Two-Headed Giant, hopefully we might see a little bit more of a Two-Headed Giant casual crowd start to develop. That would be really, really, really cool.
Here's the name of the plane. Kylem.
That's it.
And it is a love letter to sports and esports alike.
Ooh, there you go.
I just want to see some sort of reference to Blood Bowl. Imagine that, football players.
Yeah.
Changelings can be football players now.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Okay, well, I mean, these lands, if they're this honed in on making cards with mechanics specifically for multiplayer, you can expect to see these showing up in people's commander decks, in maybe, no, we can't do Brawl because that's standard legal, but this is very, very exciting and interesting. We'll see what they decide to spoil moving forward here. Now, of course,
we're really close to getting a lot of those spoilers since that's releasing June 8th.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're almost to the 2-week period, actually.
And this does not give us any hints into what the next plane we are going to for the actual story is. Again, hearkening back to our last episode where we were talking about maybe we're going to stay on Dominaria or maybe we're heading to Ravnica. Nobody really knows.
I was overlooking the events for GP Vegas.
Yes.
They're calling the next Pro Tour is Pro Tour Spaghetti.
Okay.
Because they haven't given us the name of the next set.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's still, like, a lot of people were hoping for slivers in Dominaria. There's a very good chance that we will be...
Wasn't there oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the designer, but he said something about slivers still being on Dominaria.
Yeah, and we know we love some slivers. So
yeah, you do.
If we do end up staying on Dominaria, we'll definitely see if they retain this whole legendary permanent fix or legendary focus moving forward.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
legendary slivers.
Legendary slivers would be insane. But anyway, so that'll that'll kind of do it for Battle Bond for us. But Greg, let's touch on something a little bit closer to you here. You've been playing more MTG Arena,
I
and
have.
you've been drafting.
Well, starting today, I've only done one draft so far.
Well, it is Friday, and full force, man. Let us know. Give us the juicy details. What's it like drafting on MTG Arena?
It's actually pretty simple. You remember how they set it up recently with Modo online for the client and everything, where you would draft your deck and then based on your ranking, you would play other people, so you don't necessarily play in your own pod.
Oh, wow. So, draft leagues.
It's essentially set up to be like draft league, so you play other people, but you're not always playing the same people in your pod.
Huh.
So hate drafting is actually much worse.
Right. And I know there have been quite a few people who have been upset with the fact that when you do draft leagues, it really is kind of counterintuitive to the nature of actually drafting in a pod of 8. However, the time that it takes to complete a league is much, much, much quicker than it would if you were to just do a regular old draft. So
yeah, it's better than that 4 hours. It's you get 3 losses, and since it's still in the preliminary, it's always best of 1 game. So when you're playing it, it's really cool because I'm playing with things like I drafted a black-red deck, and I was main decking Liliana's Defeat. And it actually came in use in a couple of games.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think, for the full draft experience, I can definitely sympathize with the people who have been a little bit turned off by the fact that they're not going to be playing in a pool of people for the draft that they've seen.
Well, there's nothing saying that they're not going to have that, though.
Well, no, you're absolutely. But I can the point is, I can see where the frustration comes when you draft a deck and you play against people who you have not been seeing the packs for. That's part of drafting when you get to a Pro Tour drafting level. That's
correct.
In essence what drafting was originally meant to be in Magic the Gathering. However, the convenience factor of these new draft leagues is very, very enticing. So I can see the benefits of both. But yeah, maybe they will give you the option of doing both on MTG Arena moving forward. We'll see.
Well, they offer you both on Modo now, don't they?
Yes, but
I see no reason why. I mean, we're still in the beta for everything here, so we're testing everything out. One thing I've noticed, if you're in an older computer that's not like an iSeries, you're pretty much going to get crashed out all the time.
Right. And I mean, the beta series is definitely very telling of what's to come. I mean, for those of us who've been playing Fortnite, it's still in early access mode, but it is absolutely fantastic. But we won't dive into that. But the fact that the Arena client has had so much development going on so far, and I don't know how close we are to the actual release date of MTG Arena, where it's going to be available on mobile clients as well as Mac, but
I'd be willing to say next year.
Next year. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of cleaning up that they have to do. They're getting close.
It's only May. Oh gosh, they need to hurry it up.
Well, this is just what I feel. I could always be wrong,
Right. No, you're right. You're right. And we'll be waiting for the final client with bated breath.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the prices of cards in Dominaria and how they've been behaving or misbehaving in this first week that we've seen genuine paper standard play. We made a couple of predictions for some cards, and some have come true. Others have slightly come true. But I think the elephant in the there's actually 2 elephants in the room, and Greg, I'll let you take the second one, but the first one that I am very excited about was Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. I remember during the week between pre-release and release weekend when we were talking to you about pick up these cards, Teferi was floating right around 17 or 18 bucks. Well,
Yeah.
market price on TCG Player today, Friday, $33.40. That's almost double the price that he was a week ago. He is
It's really good.
Yeah, he is really good, and he is the cornerstone of some of these new control decks that we've seen in some standard decks that we will talk about in our next segment. But he's really good. I think we went through his abilities prior in a previous episode, but
We have.
in essence, he's a net 3 mana planeswalker that you're playing in a blue-white control deck that you're holding up counter magic and possibly even removal. So he's so good. So hopefully you got your Teferis when you had the chance, but he is definitely spiking in terms of his price. So I guess if you really need him, try to get him, but he may dip back down, but we'll see how powerful he is in our standard format moving forward here. So he might actually be able to hold on to that price tag. But Greg, what's another big gainer we've seen over the past week?
Well, big gainer, or are we talking small gains?
Well, let's go for the big gainers first.
The big gainers. Well, one of the biggest gainers, once again, with these control decks is Lyra Dawnbringer.
Ooh, yeah.
When we last talked to you guys about prices, Lyra was around 16. She's now currently right around 32.
Yep.
Talk about a big jump. I mean, a 5/5 flying first strike lifelink. That's a lot like Baneslayer Angel. Matter of fact, it might even be better. Sure, it's a legend. You only get to have one out, but this allows you to play with some other stuff to make them better. And ultimately, a 5/5 for 5 with flying and lifelink is kind of something you can never pass up.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And she's just seeing a lot of play right now.
Yeah. And like you said, Greg, the fact that she's legendary will kind of make you want to hold your second copy in your hand. And of course, this is a major target for removal. So if they play that Ravenous Chupacabra, or if they seal away your Lyra Dawnbringer.
Whoa. What about a fight with fire?
Or a fight with fire, sure. Then you will be able to drop your second one with almost not even skipping a beat. But 5 mana for a 5/5 flying first strike lifelink is just power. It's so good.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. So, another one, while we're on the subject of cards that have been going up, I'm not actually sure if this has gone up since the last time we've talked, but it's already kind of been up for a while. But History of Benalia is currently commanding a $17.37 market price tag. It's really good, especially in limited. But like we said, especially in a control-heavy format, I don't know if the control decks are actually playing History of Benalia. Maybe they are.
I didn't see any.
Okay. But this definitely seems more of like an aggro/tempo type of play. And, maybe a deck will be there that needs this, that takes off. But in the meantime, with no knights to buff, if you're playing control decks, the ultimate is just going to kind of fizzle. But currently it's $17. I still say sell if you have these. You probably are going to be able to get more bang for your buck, especially if you want to buy them back up once they dip a little bit. I'm still saying these probably drop to closer to $10, maybe $11. But that's just me. That's just my speculation. But do you have anything to add for
it's
history?
It's gone up about a buck.
Gone up about a buck? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe it holds. Maybe it holds. I don't know. I just don't see it holding long term. But again, that's
it's
just
the
me.
white weenie love. There's a lot of knights in this format. I mean, a black-white knight deck is there, especially with Ariel, Knight of Windgrace.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's really good, especially at pumping out more knights. That's always good. All right. Well, then why don't we move on to one that we actually called as probably going to start dipping here. And sure enough, we have Mox Amber that is now down to a market price of $18. I mean, Greg, is the floor, or is it going to continue to fall?
No, I'd say maybe 12 is the floor.
Maybe 12. Okay. Yeah, I think we called it at 10 last episode, so we'll see how close to 10 it gets. But
Well, since it didn't drop so sharply in these first week, I think it's a little bit higher than 10.
yeah, well, it started out at what, 24 or 27, something around those numbers.
30 something.
I want to say it was closer to 27. So this is almost a $10 dip in 1 week.
Yeah.
So give it some time. It'll start to simmer down. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a very good card in the right deck. But I think in like a commander deck or brawl, it's definitely going to shine. But in a standard deck, I don't really see it doing too much, and maybe not even modern. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely one of the underpowered Moxen that have been printed to date. So I think that's gonna pretty much. Oh, and of course, Karn still sitting at around $40. Market price looks to be about $39.75. I think he was about 41 when we last talked, so he's actually holding, and he's been showing up, here and there. But we can actually go. Let's go a little bit deeper into some of these standard decks. We've had a couple events, or an event rather, that we can look at. There was a team event, but we won't really go into that too much. But
There's not much there.
not much there, no. So we actually have a couple formats to go over, but let's start breaking down some decks in the Brewmaster's Lair.
I mean, can I get a double shot?
Double shot. Triple
Double
shot.
shot. Great. So we're going to
Quadruple
talk
shot.
not only we're not just going to talk about some standard decks here. There was also a modern event that had some changes. Now, mostly I feel like I want to talk about what we've seen that's differently getting played in these standard or modern decks.
Right.
Specifically, like in standard, I see what took second place is this blue-white historic deck.
Yes.
And if you remember, historic cards are sagas
right.
and artifacts and legendaries. So this is the deck that I think made Lyra and Teferi jump so much. It's running a 3 of Lyra Dawnbringer, so that 5/5 flying first strike lifelink seems real strong here. Merfolk Trister, which allows you to make a creature lose everything.
Yep.
All abilities. Raff Capuchin, 4-drop 3/3 flying and Flash. That allows you to cast historic spells with Flash.
We're going to
that
come back
makes
to him.
Torrential Gearhulks at a 2 of, allowing you to cast your instants, a pair of Walking Ballistas, 2 Teferis, new cards, Blink of an Eye,
Yes.
a 4 of History of Benalia, and a 4 of Wizard's Retort.
Okay.
It's also running 2 Memorial to Genius. Did you see that?
That's pretty sweet. That's some good card draw. That's a good card draw tech right there.
And then
in the
2
main.
more Teferis in the side.
Yep. Yep. I mean, you want to go full control, you got to go 4 Teferis. But, okay, let me for a second just gush about Mr. Raff Capuchin here and see exactly what he allows us to do in this deck. So,
Okay.
First of all, he's a 4-drop, 3/3 flying with Flash. So, end of your opponent's turn, guess what? I got a 3/3 flyer. They can beat face. That's just on the bottom level. That's the floor. So where do we go from here? We can say end of your, because since he gives all your historic spells Flash, end of your opponent's turn, I'll flash in a History of Benalia, get a 2/2 White Knight. And then at the beginning of my turn, get another White Knight. So essentially for 3 mana, you get 2 2/2 White Knights on that turn. That's pretty strong, right?
It's good.
But that's kind of where it starts. Second, Raff enables Wizard's Retort.
Yep.
That is a true counterspell. Blue, if you control a wizard. And guess what? Raff is a wizard. So we get a control deck that's playing Counterspell. That's huge. That's ridiculous. Also, Greg, you actually mentioned this earlier. You can flash in a Walking Ballista. That's crazy. That's almost like a burn spell, instant speed. I mean, you had to pay twice the cost, but still, that's like I'll pay 6, I'll drop Ballista, I'll ping whatever for 3, and let's move on from there. Lyra Dawnbringer is a legendary. You can flash in a 5/5 flying first strike lifelink. That's like a removal spell plus some. I mean, flashing into Fairy is pretty good if you just want to be conservative with your mana. If you're not doing anything else and you just want to flash him in, that's okay. Obviously, you're not going to activate his abilities on your opponent's turn, but it's great value. But Raff Capuchin, man, he is just enabling a series of powerful plays in this blue-white control deck. I think that it's definitely the all-star of this deck, and only he's like a 30-cent card, but just he's so good. I'm loving me some Raff Capuchin right now.
Oh, wow! Did you look at the Black Green Constrictor deck that took first?
I did, and did you see the new Planeswalker that was in that deck?
3 of them on top of running 3 Adventurous Impulses.
Yep,
that's interesting.
Yep. And, of course, the Planeswalker we're referring to is Karn, Scion of Urza himself, in the winning Black-Green Constrictor deck. It's running its run-of-the-mill Winding Constrictor, Walking Ballista, Verdurous Gearhulk in this build. Yes, thank you. Go big. Go big or go home. Your Rishkars, your Branch Walkers, your Jade Light Rangers. Like you said, Greg, Adventurous Impulse, very, very good, but 3 Scion of Urzas, 3 Karns, that's just a draw engine and then some. So
it is. It's really good. It looks like a fun deck.
Yeah, definitely. So you have a blue-white deck taking 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. All running to Fairy, Hero of Dominaria. Unfortunately, I don't see any Raff Capuchins in this 4th place deck. That's why it took 4th place, by the way. The lack of Raff Capuchins.
But it was running Search for Azcanta.
Yeah, jeez. Look at this.
Now, one moment. I want to bring something up here about Raff Capuchin.
Okay.
End of your turn, I'll flash in, Search for Azcanta.
Oh, that's pretty good. That is
pretty
good.
Or a Legion's Landing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or if you're even in Bant, Growing Rights of Itlimoc.
Yeah, why not?
Vance's Blasting Stations. Like, all these are legendary things that you get flash with Raff.
Yep.
Ooh. Here's another fun one. Oh, I'll fashion this Nezahal.
Oh, gosh. Wait, he doesn't already have Flash?
No.
Wow.
None of the dinos have it, but you'll flash it in.
I thought he did.
Hey, would you like a Flash Zatalpa?
I'd like a Flash Atali, actually. Let's play some Jeskai. That sounds fun. But for real, though, this 4th place deck, this is just straight up control. Control, 3 Cast Out, 4 Disallow, 3 Essence Scatter, 3 Fumigate, 4 Seal Away, 4 Settle the Wreckage, 3 Syncopate. You can't do anything against this deck. No. I mean, unless you're playing Raff Capuchin, of course. But this is just... And then let me take a look at this 3rd place deck here. We're kind of going out of order, but oh well. Okay, this is definitely very similar to the 4th place deck. Very, very controlling. A lot more removal. But, God, that ability to leave up Seal Away with Teferi is pretty huge. I mean, Seal Away or Essence Scatter or Negate. That's amazing.
No, it's really good.
Or Search for Azcanta with your Raff Capuchin.
Ugh.
Okay.
Man. All right, so I'm looking over some of these red decks, and what I'm mostly seeing, the change is Goblin Chain Whirler.
That card's so good.
It really is. It brings down anything you want it to.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Are you looking at this mono red God Pharaoh's gift deck here?
I saw that. That was so good looking. It looks like fun.
Dude, I mean,
it's everything you want.
It really is. It's got 4 Rowdy Crew. Who runs Rowdy Crew? I mean, I guess it's fueling your God Pharaoh's gift. If you don't know, Rowdy Crew is 2 red for a 3/3 human pirate with trample. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards at random. If 2 cards that share a card type are discarded this way, put 2 1/1 counters on Rowdy Crew. So a little bit of randomness there, but it definitely fuels that God Pharaoh's gift if you're discarding creatures. And guess what? There's a lot of creatures in this deck. There's a lot.
There really is.
It's only running 2 Chandras, 4 Gate to the Afterlife, and 2 God Pharaoh's Gift. The rest are creatures and lands. That's pretty crazy. Ooh, how about those Siege Gang commanders in the sideboard? You want to bring a Siege Gang commander back with your God Pharaoh's Gift? That sounds pretty good.
It does. It really does.
And then sack those to your Skirk Prospector to get more mana to play a bigger Walking Ballista. Ooh, that sounds fun.
God. It sounds really strong. So the deck that I'm looking at now is green-white.
Ooh, is that by chance running any... Where is she? Wait.
No Shauna.
Yeah, no Shauna. Oh, well.
But it is running 3 of Galta, 3 Greenbelt Rampager, 3 J-Light Rangers, 4 Lanorels, 4 Merfolk Bratchwalkers, 4 Resilient Kenras, 1 Ronus, 3 Shalais, and 4 Steel Leaf Champions.
Oh, wow. That Steel Leaf Champion doing work. Seems like a very, very strong card.
It looks really strong. Like, you get to do a lot of stuff with this deck. And then there in your side, a 1 of Ancient Animus.
Yep.
Which I think is just a real strong card.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, you know what? You've got your Shalais. And the only bad part about Shalai is she doesn't have hexproof. How do you fix that? You run 4 Blossoming Defense in the main. That's ridiculous. That's so good. This guy is all in on Shalai. I can't even. I love it. Wow.
So, with that, talking about standard and those changes, a lot of these changes we actually see reflected in modern.
We do have some differences in modern.
But, like, Shalai is seeing play there. That is such a good card.
It really is.
I mean, it pretty much locks out most problems you ever have because your creatures dying is what killed Saheeli combo. Which, by the way, it just allows you to get there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if we look at some of these decks here in this modern classic event, SCG Atlanta, if you go down, we have to go all the way down to 5th place where we have a Jeskai Saheeli deck, but it is running 1 of Shalai, Voice of Plenty, in the main deck. I mean, you definitely want to keep your planeswalkers and creatures protected when you're trying to go off with a combo, specifically Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian. So yeah, it's great. And it also just has the added win condition of pump your team each turn, and just go to town. So with those Lotus Cobras, Noble Hierarchs, you're going to be able to provide that mana to pump your team if that, secondary plan does end up coming to fruition. So, I mean, and then you said, what was that addition to Boggles that you were talking about below Jeskai Saheeli?
Boggles in the sideboard. So not a lot of big changes for the main deck because we didn't get a lot of great cards. Other than the +1/+1, you become a legend, and first strike lifelink. That is great, but not good enough. But here in the sideboard, we have a 2 of the dampening sphere. What I'm
Ooh.
curious is I want to see if Brian Lee did some deck techs, and if he felt like the dampening sphere was worth playing.
You know, I wonder if your bad matchups for Boogles, whatever you want to call it, is a deck like Tron or a deck like maybe Titan Breach or any of
Yeah.
these other decks in Modern that actually have lands that will produce multiple mana per tapping. Because if you get turn 3 Worm Coiled against a Boggles deck, whatever you want to call it, that could be a little problematic, and it's not going to be every turn that or every game that you're able to put out your Leyline of Sanctity as well as a slippery Bogle with all kinds of enchantments on it. It just seems like it's, if in fact that those are the decks that it does have specific problems with, seems like a good include in the sideboard.
It really does.
Yeah, because turning off Tron just for a turn or two is sometimes all it takes to run them over, especially when you're as uninteractive as a deck like Boggles. So that seems pretty interesting. I like the Damping Sphere inclusion in the sideboard.
Then one of the other decks that I wanted to talk about was the Black-White Death and Taxes deck.
Yeah.
And that's running a 2 of Shalai in the main deck.
There she is again.
And I can't speak enough. I think this card is actually really strong. Giving the rest of your team hexproof and yourself hexproof is really good.
And you've got those 3 Horizon Canopies in the main if you really want that backup plan of pump your team. Other than that, everything else is just mono white or colorless.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
So.
Well, but that's really all I see in Modern.
Yeah, I mean, Shalai definitely making a name for itself in both Standard and Modern. So, maybe you should get yourself a couple of copies of that if you don't have any yet. Definitely makes a great card in Commander and Brawl as well. Great long game plan as well as protecting your team. So, this is interesting. It's great to see. And then if you go even further down, there's another Counters Company deck in 15th place that's running Shalai as well. Holy cow. Shalai is just all over the place.
I think Shalai might be the new boogeyman for Modern, honestly, because it essentially sits in the same spot as Gavany Township and costs 2 more. And it gives hexproof.
Yep. And another Damping Sphere in the sideboard. This is very interesting. I love the fact that we're already seeing Dominaria cards taking place in Modern tournaments this early on. It's only a weekend, and we're already seeing it. I mean,
these were last week's tournament standings. We've got a new weekend of events this weekend.
We do. It is Friday, and we've got a couple events coming up here this weekend. I unfortunately haven't quite looked into that. I've been off work, and as a result, haven't been listening to as many neighboring podcasts as I usually do. But
you've been playing Fortnite.
We'll do our best to bring all that results and new card inclusions and all that good stuff to you as we move forward here. But I've been really itching to get these brawl decks that I've built some run here. Maybe we'll have to get online here and do some gameplay videos. I'm still cutting up those box openings. Those should be up within this next week for sure. This is it's just a great time to go out and play some Magic. Use those new cards.
It is, and I mean, if you haven't seen it, Dominaria's draft level is very high.
Oh yeah.
I can almost tell you my local game stores are probably packed tonight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know I want to go and draft Dominaria coming up here pretty soon. Hopefully, I'll get an opportunity to do that. But yeah, that kind of wraps us up. We're gonna have a bit of a shorter episode this week here, but without going on too much further, let's remind everybody that this show is brought to you by Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com, where you can make any order of any sealed product, any singles, any other gaming-related material, and any order over $10. Use that promo code WINCONDITION in all caps to save yourself 10% off your purchase, which will help contribute to future show giveaways. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Where can these fine folk on the internet find you, Greg?
Well, not only can you find me on our email, the Win Condition Podcast at gmail.com, you can also find me on Twitter at NoobSlasher2003.
And you can find me at MTG_Sean. The show is at The Win Condition on Twitter. Go ahead and check out our YouTube page with a link in the show notes. And I noticed, Greg, our Joda Archmage Eternal episode has got a couple hundred views on YouTube already. That was pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
Once
wow.
Once this Dominaria story comes to a close, we'll have to dive back into the MTG wiki of other characters of yore to bring you some more interesting content on lore.
So we could have people.
Thank you everybody for listening, for participating, hanging out, and we love y'all. So
yeah.
All that being said, Greg, thanks again.
Always my pleasure.
And we will talk to y'all next week.
Yeah.